Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, give all praises to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother, who is wisdom, who is Holy Spirit. Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray that the Most High blesses this lesson this evening, gives us more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past in order to understand the events that are currently happening on the earth, so we get a much better understanding of things that are soon to come on the earth. Brethren, we have been blessed immensely by a sister who got her hands on the Black Celts. We're going to be jumping into this video right now. We're going to be jumping into this book right now. And, as I just barely got it started getting into reading it, I know that there's going to be a lot of things the Most High is going to reveal. But I at least wanted to let you guys see a little bit from this book. So thank you again, sister, for hooking up the nation with this book. You guys are going to be amazed, but you're going to see now how the blueprint was set up and how the wicked have been working to pretty much hide everything about us. Hide how everything has originated. They've given the blueprint to how they've done these things. How they did it over there in the 3 parts. And they just continued with that same blueprint over here in the 4th part. That's why in the scriptures it talks about how there's nothing new under the sun. Because if it worked for them one time, they're just going to continue with it again. When it talks about in the Psalms of Solomon, how the other nations were going to obliterate our name from memory. Talk about that in the Psalms 83. See, if you do not actually, you're not going to recognize who the Most High's chosen people are. The whole scriptures are talking about a people that are lost, a people that have lost everything, and how the Most High gives them that knowledge and understanding at the end for them to stand back up and be the people that they were intended to be in the first place. If your religion is not talking about that, then your religion is nothing but trash. If you're still talking about the whole world and everybody and God loves everybody, that religion is nothing but trash. That Bible that you guys have been walking around, preaching your gospel, your good news, has been nothing but lies. That Bible condemns you because that book is talking about a people that has lost all knowledge of themselves. And at the end, the Most High awakens them. So no one is woke. They always talk about how the woke people, woke Christians, woke Catholics. I'm a woke individual. I understand what's going on. You're not woke unless you are admitting who our power is. Unless you're admitting that, you guys have been instrumental in keeping us from knowing who we are. And here at the end, that the Most High has now awakened his people. We are in that book of Revelation, the book of revealing. And tonight, we're about to reveal some more absolutely mind-blowing information. The Black Celts, an ancient African civilization in Ireland and Britain. Now, they're always going to be trying to push that Africa stuff. They can tell you, well, they got into a lot of Hebrew stuff in here as well. But they always still try to push that Africa thing. They got to tell you everything, but you got to learn how to just, bob and weave through all their BS. And the Most High is going to enlighten us to this truth. Talks about Indo-European tribes first reached Britain and Ireland between 800 BC and 500 BC. What tribes inhabited Britain and Ireland before these European tribes arrived? And that's huge right there. That's what they're going to be getting into. A study of folklore, craniology, blood groups, language, Irish and Welsh, and archaeology indicates the arrival of Africans during the Neolithic, Bronze, and Iron Age. Okay? Punite publications. Now, like I said, you just get past that whole thing with Africa. Okay? We know our people they weren't calling themselves African back then. And we knew that our people were surrounded with, our brethren, the Hamites. So you're going to have definitely a mix of people. You're going to have a mix of Hamites as well as Israelites. Who's to say there's not even some Japhites up in there? But here we go. Got a lot to get into today. And this is just barely touching the iceberg, to the tip of the iceberg right here. You get that little picture right there. And this book, was difficult to get the hands on. So the Most High said, definitely bless the sister with this opportunity to get this book and to be able to bring this information to the nation, be able to bless the nation right here. All right. It's about page 52. Dub and Dorcas, black and dark. Many characters in the annals of Ireland and Wales are described as being black-skinned. These characters are generally regarded as ignoble. Okay, that's like not noble, okay, not nobility, okay, and are usually disliked by the writers. And we know how that is. I said, even all the way till today, people are not liking us. People they don't want that truth. In Anthony Roberts' Atlantean Traditions in Ancient Britain, he gives an account of a tale about the island of the blessed, west of Ireland. Irish folk songs remember an ancient land to the west of Ireland, which takes many days, to reach. So we're talking about Atlantis right now? Quite possibly, okay? In order to reach this paradise, one has to travel along a road which leads to a land where all the inhabitants are black. So we're now talking about the Atlanteans, all being so-called black people. Next comes a land where the people are all tall and drive chariots. Also, the people in those days, according to the old folk songs, were able to fly. So now we got supernatural abilities. I know I've always had that thought of flying, being able to fly, in my dreams. Maybe that's something that's actually we were doing a long time ago. This tradition has many parallels with African stories and has obviously been handed down to the present population by the ancient African seafarers who inhabited many parts of Ireland. So, as you watch movies like Braveheart, everybody's white. They always push that, okay? You watch movies like King Arthur and Britain, and everyone's white. You're going to realize, like I said, that our people were there. People were there before the Indo-Europeans got there, and they've been doing their best to wipe this information, from the history books. In Welsh Mabinogion, a collection of old tales, people with blonde hair are distinguished from the population, which is mainly dark-haired. In the tale of the Lady of the Fountain, a black man sits waiting on top of a hill with his large iron club. Curly-haired individuals are frequently mentioned. Okay, Aaron, son of Pibian, had rough red hair. Those described as blondes usually have curly hair. The Mabinogion describes King Arthur's courts at Caerleon, South Wales. This king was visited by a curly-headed lady on a yellow mule. Her face was black, and her hands the blackest color imaginable. Another story describes a black man, also known as the Black Oppressor, who fought against many warriors at Big Ningle Castle. Although the Welsh annals are not as detailed as the Irish. The fact that black people are mentioned at all is of great significance. Okay. He said it's not just about, there are black people there. There's more information, and when you start linking it up to other events worldwide, it's going to open up many other understandings. Okay. Hold on fast. Make sure I'm on the right page. There's a big jump right here. Oh well. All right, sorry. I want to read a little bit more. I didn't take this other picture. Okay. It's going to be continued on page 53. Okay, it's not this yet. It says ancient Irish literature gives a very detailed description of the racial characteristics of the ancient inhabitants. The ancient Irish had black, red, brown, and even yellow hair. And that would make sense because, our people are the dominant genes, and we're able to make everything. Okay, we're able to produce all different types of hair, skin colors, eye colors, everything, because we are dominant as far as genes are concerned. Okay, today the bulk of the Irish population have dark hair. Red hair is found occasionally. As for blonde hair, it is completely absent in some areas. The Celts, whether they be from Ireland, Wales, Scotland, Brittany, or Cornwall, have a very low incidence of blondism. Blonde hair is usually associated with invaders from Scandinavia. So most of the people with blonde hair were not the ones that were in Ireland and Britain. Okay, those were associated with definitely people who have recessive genes, and we understand that. Okay, so now let's skip on up here, making sure we get all this information here. Okay, looking for another video for another day here. Let's go to page 144. This guy. Hold on. It's a little bit backwards there. We're going to start on page 143. Okay. Cornwall, a Phoenician colony. The origin of the name Cornwall has been translated by Celtic philologists to mean strangers of the horn, kern or corn, being the British for horn, and Waylon is the Saxon name for the Welsh. This explanation is not satisfactory, since the origin of kern is never explained. Erythriac can be used to explain this word. In Hebrew, the word used to describe horn is karn, and the same word in Arabic is karenin. The ancient inhabitants of Cornwall were called Kerni. According to the Welsh triads, the cornade or corny came to Britain from Arabia before the Roman era. So before the Romans got over here, there were already so-called black people up here. Let's find out though. They always like to push African. But you're gonna realize that there's other people other than Africans here. Local tradition in Cornwall frequently mentions Jewish people working in the tin smelting hearth. So we know English is not Ish. We know those are the real Hebrews. Okay? Because Ish is definitely associated with not the dominant genes, but the recessive genes. All right? So right here, tin smelting hearth. These were known as Jew houses. The tin produced in this county was also called Jew's tin. Phoenician and Hebrew are very closely related. They are classified as dialects of Canaanite. Thus, local tradition in Cornwall frequently refers to the Phoenicians as Jews. So now you're going to see that the Israelites were there as well. As much as they want to push Africa, 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 because they try to put us all into one, one pot. This is showing you that before the Romans got there, that there was going to be some Hamites as well as some Israelites. Now let's check out the next page real fast. Check this out. Numerous places names exist in Cornwall, which can be attributed to the Phoenicians. The Tamar, which divides Cornwall and Devon, has never been satisfactorily explained by Celtic philologists. So they don't want to explain the truth. They don't really want to dig deep, because once they dig deep, they get exposed. Many Cornish writers avoid commenting on the origin of the word. There you go. Just like they definitely avoid talking about what Columbus found when he got here. What were the people doing before he got here? And the same things that they were doing back then, you're going to see was taking place over here as well. Not wanting to have certain discussions, not wanting to talk about certain things. That's what they've been doing. Okay? On comparing the name Tamar to Eritreic names, and that's kind of referring back to the Middle East, Northern and Eastern Africa, those areas over there. That's what they're talking about right here. And I tried to actually look up Eritreic and try to find a video on it on YouTube. Couldn't find anything. I don't know how, when that's ever happened, when you can't find a video on YouTube talking about anything. You can, usually go to you can Google or YouTube anything, and you at least find something. I couldn't find anything on this right here. So maybe someone has some more knowledge, understanding. You want to add some more information in the comment board, please do. Okay. It says, however, the meaning becomes completely clear. In Somali, we have the form Tamir, which means date or palm. The Ethiopic and Arabic form is Tamur. Okay. In Hebrew, Tamar means date or palm and can also denote an object of beauty. In the Old Testament, Tamar occurs frequently. You got Baal Tamar, Tamar, Judah's daughter-in-law, Tamar, daughter of Absalom, famed for her beauty, Tamar, the sister of David's son, Absalom. Okay, so now take a look. You got the river Tamar right here. You got Lake Tamar up here. These are not things that you would have found. They were already named before the Romans got here. So see, people always make it seem like, all the names of Jerusalem and all that stuff is in the so-called Middle East. And then they make fun of it when they say, oh, well, yeah, you found these names over here in America, but they had that over there first. And people just came over here and started naming it that. How do you know that? How do you know they didn't come over here and they already got exposed right here? Because these names were given to these places before the Indo-Europeans got there. So just like when they came over here, there was already names of places, because remember, it was a fourth part. The Europeans were not allowed to come over here. So these places would have already had names. So who's to say, see, the Middle East, so-called Middle East, and Israel over there was not even established until the 1940s, almost the 1950s. So then where are these names really originally coming from? So that's what you got to start to think. Okay? So let's continue. You got some more places right here. You got up here, Glen Afrique, Lake Afrique, River Afrique, okay? Afrikaans, okay? But you got down here, you got, again, Tamar Lake, Egypt right here, Tamar River, you got Port Isaac, okay, and probably other places, Baal, right here. So there's many of others. You can take a look at this yourself. Like I said, we're going to be jumping into this. There's more information that breaks this down, but I wanted to at least get some information out to you guys right now. But see, the same things that they were doing over there to, hide information, not wanting to talk about information, burying stuff, burying things that'll lead you back to the Hebrews actually being here first. They've been doing that. They did it over there. And now we're just going to look at how they've been doing the same things over here. Talking about this historical site that they found. And then, well, you can guess what they wanted to do, what they did with the site. It says this historical site caused quite a stir from 1891 through about in 1930. Then appears to have been forgotten. My first reaction when I learned about this find was, why isn't this inscription well known in scientific circles? Okay. Hold on. It says, because of my interest, this inscription well known in scientific circles. Okay. It says, or why isn't this inscription well known in scientific circles? Because of my interest in pre-Columbian transoceanic voyages and the many similarities of design between the old and new world, I decided to delve into the mystery of this largely ignored discovery. Okay. And I spent 2 years in detective work. I determined to seek out all facts available. The reason the site seems to have been forgotten is strange indeed. Shortly after it was discovered, Mr. J. Hamden Porter, acting in collaboration with the Smithsonian Institution, well, there you go, was assigned to investigate this unique discovery. He described the wall as an ancient construction of unusual design and proportion. The whole course of the wall ran 1,060 feet in a semicircular direction and was marked on the surface by stones 25 to 30 feet apart. It was composed of red sandstone and appeared to be 3-ply, or 3 sections cemented together with a dark red cement type mortar. The inscribed portion was found at the north end of the wall. It was 8 feet high and 16 feet long. Okay, figure 2.7 shows the center layer of this portion of the wall with an inscription containing 872 symbols or characters arranged in wavy parallel and diagonal lines. Why was so little being done to investigate this site further? Shortly after J. Hamden Porter embarked upon the project, the Smithsonian Institution chose not to continue furnishing funds for the work. Was the Smithsonian short of funds or too involved with other projects at the time? In Mr. Porter's letter on November 7th, 1891, to the Smithsonian, he asked what happened to the 2 men with whom he had correspondence, the 2 men to whom he had sent photographs along with papers describing extensive research at the site. In this letter, expressing his frustration to the Smithsonian, Mr. Porter closed by saying, "It is certainly cut by man, but what race?" Please reply, okay, at your earliest convenience. Since if I do not hear from the Smithsonian, you guys can see right there what he was talking about. It says, within a few days, I shall leave this place without attempting to do anything more. There was no response. Some years ago, the Smithsonian told me that their linguist is of the opinion that certain marks on the Chatata inscription have a vague similarity to known letters from the Near East. Yet, to my knowledge, the Institute has done nothing further to investigate this site or the surrounding area. Is there no significance in the growing accumulation of evidence? Conclusions. The Smithsonian Institution is not the authority on the Book of Mormon cultures. Mexican and Central American Indians are made up of non-Mongoloid races, as if evidenced by their blood type and by pre-Columbian sculptures of their ancestors. The Norse were not the only foreigners to settle in ancient America. Evidence of some grains, animals, and objects mentioned in the Book of Mormon have been discovered, some quite recently. Although not particularly relevant to the Book of Mormon, some Egyptian customs and artistic styles have been found in Mesoamerica. Some pre-Columbian races were literate and used scripts that had an affinity with Old World languages. Now, like I said, we just kind of go in and out of some of the stuff that they're saying. We know that the languages over here were much more complex. And they had definitely, they actually had an affinity with other languages over there in the three parts because we were in both. And we get into some of the other books and pages from the Black Celts books, you're going to see how language is really important. And it's really a great marker for when did Spanish show up, when did English show up, when did French show up, and what was before them. Because the same thing that happened over there in the so-called three parts, where our people were all over the place. And you can tell by the languages that were left, the ancient languages. Well, then you come over here, the same thing. Spanish just shows up. What about the ancient languages? See, they hide all that information. They don't want to talk about the ancient languages because it has nothing to do with them. We're going to jump into the Mormon's Codex real quick. Talk about the languages, okay? It says the relationships shown in this sequence are suggestive of a Hebrew or at least a Southwestern Asiatic influence on the Mesoamerican calendar system. Okay? It says studies of the sort just reviewed are either too narrow or too unfocused, standing alone to be convincing in regard to the presence of any Old World tongue in the Mesoamerican area. But a line of research that is more powerful involves evidence for Semitic tongues and the ancestry of the Uto-Aztecan or the UA family. Those languages are distributed only or mainly in Mexico and the southwestern United States. Okay, so you got some Semitic tongues already over here before the Europeans got here. Same thing was going on over in Ireland and Britain. You got some Semitic tongues being spoken before the Indo-Europeans showed up. And then all of a sudden they try to bury this information. It says the first investigation along this line was carried out at the suggestion of Thomas Stewart Ferguson by Pierre Agrinier, an archaeologist with the New World Archaeological Foundation. He worked under the guidance of noted linguist Maurice Swadesh. Although Agrinier never published his results fully, Reed quoted Swadesh as saying about Agrinier's study, I was surprised at the number of and closeness of the parallels between the Sawiza, okay, his name for the language family that includes Zapotec and Oaxaca, okay, state in Mexico, and the Semitic languages. Approximately 18 to 20% of the few hundred Zapotec words, okay, examined were said to have recognizable parallels in Hebrew. Later, work increased the list. Okay, Brian Stubbs, a recognized expert on the UA language family, later took up a parallel but linguistically more sophisticated comparison. No. Okay. Hold on. The comparison of the Semitic languages, this time with UA. He was already familiar with tongues of both families. His 1988 report showed a consistent pattern of sound correspondences that involved over 200 roots. A brief sample of terms he found illustrates that at least some type of the systematic relationship exists. So right here, you're looking at the Hebrew and the Semitic and the Uto-Aztecan. You guys can see right there how they are similar. It says this list has since been greatly expanded and shows several sorts of pattern linguistic correspondences between the two families, in addition to vocabulary. In 1996, Stubbs reported the similarities, lexical, morphological, and semantic combinations between UA and Semitic now number about 1,000. By 2005, personal communication, that number had grown greater still. Yet Stubbs considered his latest informally published study still exploratory. Now that he has published a major comparative work on UA languages based on 2,700 cognate sets drawn from 30 UA tongues, he plans to return to a comparison of Semitic and UA. Stubbs' intermediate conclusion is that perhaps 30 to 35% of all UA words relate in some degree to Semitic languages. In a forthcoming book, he plans to demonstrate the variety of puzzles in the UA data are explainable by supposing the infusion of two Semitic dialects, an Egyptian that creolized with an ancestral UA-based tongue. Okay? So what you can see right now is that what they did over here in the Americas was that, they got here. Remember now, they were told to it brought Hebrew interpreters over here. So if they brought Hebrew interpreters, they were expecting to speak with people who were familiar with the Hebrew language. That's what Columbus was doing, okay? Now we know that, they did the same thing when they were going over to Britain and Ireland. These people were speaking, some Hebrew as well as from some other languages that were from the, African area, some Hamitic languages. So now you can see, you can see how their blueprint. You can see how they do things. And see, what you're seeing right now is this. The Most High said that he was going to increase knowledge. Now that this knowledge is being increased, they're just going crazier and crazier with the news in order to keep people from chasing after the truth. It all works hand in hand. Just like in the last video, when it was talking about how they control news cycles. So they're controlling news cycles in order to keep people blinded. Someone made a comment that made a lot of sense, talking about how Trump was in the hospital for 3.5 days. They know that we're coming to the last 3.5, years of their reign. They're not going to be getting resurrected and coming back to life and taking control, of our lands anymore. But they're just getting crazier and crazier in order to keep people glued to the TV. And that was something I always talked about as far as, we'll talk about some of the things that are going on, but that will not be our general focus. That will not be our main focus. Our main focus is going to be on the Most High, doing his will. And as he gives us more knowledge and understanding, bringing that out and getting more understanding of the events of the past. So that we understand how they worked in the past, that will help us to understand what's happening right now. So that then we can look to the future and how the Most High is going to handle them. Like I said, brother, this book is just, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole lot of other information. But the thing is consolidating the information. Our people were already there in Ireland and Britain. Eventually, the Most High blessed them to take over our lands. Then you can see how they dealt, like they talked about how the people who were over there, they're scholars, as you like to say, don't like to talk about the original people that were there in the lands. They don't want to talk about how places were named, where these words came from. Now you just fast forward to over here. All these places here in California got all these Spanish names. But what were they before? What were they before the Spanish got here? And then the British and the French got here, and they left their marks and left their names everywhere. Just like I talked about in the scripture, how they're going to leave their names everywhere. Now that we're coming to the end and they know that our knowledge is accelerating, you're going to see even more outlandish and crazy stories and events happening in order to keep the sheep asleep. So please, if you guys got something to add, got some more knowledge and understanding, add it in the comment board so people can get a chance to get some more knowledge and understanding. So this is a lot of new information for myself as well. So I'm trying to learn it as well. I'm not going to sit there and act like I'm, I have this stuff down pat, because I don't. But I wanted to make sure I made a video and at least let you guys know that the sister blessed us with this book. Definitely say a prayer for her, and then also to let you guys know that we're going to be getting even deeper into some more knowledge, understanding, and connecting those pieces of the puzzle. All praise is to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother, who is wisdom, who is Holy Spirit. Acknowledgement to Hawashai. Shalom.